In my last video, I explained why it would be virtually impossible for man-made UFO technology to exist without us knowing it. And that's because if there were some grasp of physics that humans had that would enable that technology to be made, the world of physics would have some knowledge of it. Even if they didn't have the ability to engineer craft using it, we would at least have some knowledge of the physics that would enable such a craft. But let's say that you got the best physicist in the world, this genius who, while he was working for a top secret program within the government, made a revolutionary discovery about physics. And then he got together with an engineer who was a genius and had the ability to actually put those physics into a physical object. We would also by now know. And that is because any government or military capable of creating UFO technology, as has been documented, they would have used it in war by now. There have been documented cases that are consistent with the recent releases, like the Tic Tac, going all the way back to World War II. That was when UFOs kind of became known. Who knows? There are cases well before World War II, but that's when it really became a thing. And they used to call them Foo Fighters. And we've continued to see them throughout the decades since. But let's just say that the Tic Tac was the first real, well-documented case, and that because that was the first time that it was a legit case and not something that people misperceived. Because that was the first case that we could call a smoking gun. Let's just say that. That was back in 2004. That was 17 years ago. If that were the first craft of its kind ever created by a government, they would have by now deployed it into war. Because human beings are a violent and power-hungry species. It's in our nature. And so all this concern that people have that it's the Russians or the Chinese and that it's therefore a threat to us, whoever it is, they're not our enemies. And it's certainly not us, because if the Navy released this, the Navy would never have released this information. Because if it is a top secret program, the government doesn't want people to know about it, right? That's why they keep it secret. So if they were doing a training exercise near a Navy vessel and the Navy pilots saw it, and they knew that they had been seen, they would have went to the Navy and said, "Hey guys, that's us." So not very likely that it was us either. And even though the U.S. today is not an empire building country, we don't go in and just take over countries. It's partially because we have a certain degree of goodwill, but it's also because it would just be bad for us. We couldn't win every war. But if we knew that we could, we would do it. That's why we went into Iraq. We were able to come up with some excuse for doing it and toppling another government. And it turned out to be really bad for us because we didn't have the military capability to do it very well. Same thing with Afghanistan. UFO technology, there would be no question. The F-117 was top secret before the first Gulf War. It went into action then, helped win the war, and after it went to action, it had been seen, and so there was no reason to keep it secret anymore because it wasn't secret. Um, so you would see evidence of it in the world. We would be ruling the world. The Chinese would be ruling the world. The only I can't rule out the possibility of man-made technology because it is always theoretically possible that there was a group of humans that created it and didn't want to go to war and take over the world with it. But who those group of people are, we wouldn't know. Um, Maybe there's some spiritually advanced like group of geniuses who created their own hidden society in an undersea base, and they'd overcome humankind's propensity towards violence and power. I mean, that's actually more likely than the idea that it was created by a military or government anywhere in the world that we know of, because we know that basically any human government or military in the world, if they have the ability to become powerful and to wage war and be successful, they'll do it. It's in our DNA. So, um, so because we have very good reason to believe that there are advanced alien civilizations with the capability of interstellar travel, and we are seeing aircraft with the capability of interstellar travel, it's far more likely it's one of them than some sort of some society that I just came up with just now that we have no evidence for, or evidence that there exists a human society capable of actually uh, being that advanced and not using it for power and through violence. So it's not the Russians, it's not the Chinese, it's not us, it's not our allies. If it were any of our allies, they'd tell us about it, or they'd give it to us, or they would use it to help wage war on our mutual enemies. So